Another wonderful Thursday morning, the 31st of October 2024. Ndio siku ya mwisho ya mwezi. Unaweza anza anticipate, unafinya pale, unabonyeza kwa ukuta uone kama kitu kanaweza kuwa kameingia. Karibu sana, this is the Morning Cafe. My name is Freddy Ndemuli.
And I'm used to Liston Nyarungita. It's a junior Friday. I had missed saying that. I had missed saying that.
Oh yeah, it's been a while before you hosted this show on a Thursday.
Yes, it's a junior Friday. A lot is going to be happening today. Somewhere in the European countries, because I know Kenyans and Africans don't really do this. It's going to be Halloween. So anza kutafuta some costumes for that. Yes.
All right. Meanwhile, big discussions happening back home. On one of the dailies, they call it D-Day for Gachagua because a high court will today decide whether to lift an order blocking the swearing in of the deputy president, designate Professor Kithure Kindiki as sought by the Attorney General and Parliament. So it is a big day indeed. We'll be talking about this and a lot more with my panelists. James Gakuya, MP Embakasi North, Gigi Kagombe, MP Gatundu South, and Wilson Sosion, former MP and former Secretary General of the Kenya National Union of Teachers.
Yes. Moving on, after matters politics, it is National Foster Care Week, and the government's urge to make sure that children are living in the right family kind of a setting. We'll be discussing that with Masi Wamboi, Mugoshi's safeguarding lead organization, Tushinde Children's Trust, as well as Jane Munuhe, Assistant Director of the Children's Services. Stick around for that. After that, we discuss what the government is really pushing for, jobs abroad for Kenyans. What is it really? Is it that there are no jobs in Kenya? Is it that abroad there are more jobs? And what kind of policies should be there for Kenyans who are going abroad? Moses Adala, he is the CEO of Competitive Manpower. Stick around for all this so that you know if you want to travel abroad, what do you need?
All right, it is Fitness Thursday, and Shiksha Arora will be taking us through some yoga with yoga instructor Kennedy at Mint Kenya.
Ushaifanya hizi vitu?
Magoti huwezi kubali.
Ndio actually nasaidia by the way. Afanya hiyo unasikia.
All right, let's take a look at the dailies, and there's something I want, even before we take a look at this big one. Wale walikuwa nangojea ati kutakuwa na holiday ya Diwali, mumeambiwa hivi, and this is from the president. It's a very big promise. President promises decision on Diwali holiday in a year. In a year from yesterday.
Ni decision gani inafanywa of 365 days?
No. In a year, that's when he'll make the decision.
Yes. So each and every single day of this year, he'll be deciding. So yes, tomorrow is Diwali, but you have to go to work. It is not a public holiday. That's a clarification that we are making. It is there on the front page of the Star. But if you're to give the president an Indian name, unaona nafaa kuwa na gani? Katikati ya William and Ruto.
You give him.
William Singh Ruto.
Well, interesting. I think he had been given that nickname earlier. Don't go there. I can see where they're taking you. Anyway, the big headline on the front page of the Star: Ruto Shah shocker for middle class pay slips. Yes, kama hujaona pay slip yako ngojea. 2.75% shift deduction adds to housing levy, increased payee for top earners, high earners to part with over 10,000 shillings monthly in new health insurance premiums. That story is on pages 4 and 5. And how does it affect you? Final calculation, 2.75 of your gross pay, not net pay, gross. So if you're earning 100,000, that's 2,750 shillings. If you're earning 200,000, that's 5,200 and something.
Wow. Tukunaangalia payslip unapigia accountant
the big deal is that it's going to affect your 2/3. So if at all ulikuwa commit a lot of money towards loans, italeta shida.
On People Daily, they say Ruto's scheme for 2027 polls. I'll be back to take a look at why and how the road might just be very clear for him.
Meanwhile, Gachagua vows to teach him a lesson.
Yes.
They're on the front page. See how many What UK, US want from Ruto? Yes, we'll be asking this question. We've been seeing the director of CIA in Kenya and some top officials from the UK as well. So what exactly do they want from Ruto? But they say the British have threatened to withdraw funding to key projects should abductions continue. Well, the Daily Nation has done you justice. If you wanted to know what's happening, that's there on the front page.
On the Standard, no hiding as KRA spies on your money. We've been saying this from the start of this week.
Hakuna kujificha.
Yes, kutoka kwa bank, ya telcos unaambiwa haya, hiyo transaction uliyofanya.
Kuna mtu alikutumia ka 50,000. Tuambie ukweli, hii ni pesa gani? Na umetupatia ya Kaisari?
Sisi ni friends.
Kuna friends hapo. That's a Standard. Wafanya kazi mtihani feki.
Wafanya mtihani feki. Mshangao wasimamizi wa shule ya kibinafsi kuwapa watahiniwa wa KPSEA nakala za mitihani wa mwaka jana. Watu wanakuja sana bwana. Unaweza nipatia mtihani wa mwaka jana? Na nimekaa nimengojea hiyo miaka yote na ngojea kufanya mtihani wa kitaifa wa mwaka huu. Habari kuu pale kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa Taifa Leo. On Money Matters, how 175 billion cash shillings roads bond cost rise in fuel prices. Picture there, Cabinet Secretary of Roads, Davis Chirchir. And we'll be back to take a look at what the Treasury approved. Lakini pale Uganda, hey.
Not very positive story. We've been talking about how positive stories come from the front pages of Uganda. Today they're talking about fatal family feud. Family faith feud fuels fatal fight. Hey!
Nakwambia.
Have you seen what this is what is called alliteration?
Yes. Daily Monitor.
Family faith feud fuels fatal fight. Yani kuna mtu alikaa chini
akafikiria,
ama ni vile ni payday, alikaa chini akafikiria, akaangalia, akaona vile atafanya maneno. Anyway, they're saying the family fight reportedly started of a long-standing difference in opinion on religion and degenerated into a frozen relationship between two brothers and their parents. The Tuesday wrangle resulted in the death of at least 10 family members in the remote Mizizi A village, Chaterekera sub-county in Kagadi district. So police said 10 people died in the Tuesday evening feud involving members of one family because of
matters
religion. They say the two brothers had created a flag for their new religious outfit after breaking away from that which the family belonged to. Hadi mnaeka flag, bendera, mnasema sisi yo religionaire, taki sisi tuko na yetu mpaka tuko na bendera.
Yes.
Kaambiwa we tunaenda sisi wote.
Yeah.
It's a very sad story when it comes to matters faith. Anyway, that's a big headline on the front page of the Daily Monitor. This has now restricted Matters Coffee because they've been doing this series of coffee, serialization. They talk about the coffee special up there. It's on the top strip of this paper. Bugishu earns billions after value addition. Museveni summons NRM caucus over bill. And Suruma goes back in time on role of UCDA. So you can still read more about the coffee serialization on inside pages of the Daily Monitor. 4, 5, 6, 7. Those are the pages. So they're still going big on the coffee issue. But of course, they couldn't ignore such a big story. Family faith feud fuels fatal fight.
It's also on the front page of the New Vision, tucked on the right side. Say family of 8 killed for rejecting cults. Daily Monitor goes with 10, but I think for them they went with 8. Yes. Those contradictory numbers there. But the big story, Kony to be tried in absentia.
Yes, now this person has been the leading rebel in Uganda for the longest. There are books written about him, Joseph Kony, and many people don't know about him because he's never been seen.
Yeah.
He's lived in the forests forever. Now he's even being tried in absentia. They say Kwoyelo to serve 40 years in jail. That's someone different. But Joseph Kony, this is the very last image, and this image comes from close to 30 years ago.
So
he's never been seen. He must have changed by now.
Obviously.
Yes. So in Uganda, kuna kuwa stories zingine very interesting about the rebel movements and what happens in the forests, especially along the border with DRC.
And speak of DRC, Museveni and Tshisekedi hold bilateral talks. So yesterday, DRC's president, Tshisekedi, was invited to Uganda's State House to meet Yoweri Museveni. talked a number of issues there. Some interesting times for both leaders to be meeting.
Yes, especially for the region, there's been a lot of back and forth, some disagreements on especially issues to do with rebels between Rwanda, DRC, Uganda, Rwanda, Uganda, DRC. So yes, it is something positive there if the two leaders got to meet. Let's take a look at what's headlining in Tanzania. And on the front page of the Mwananchi, you say zigo la madeni. Finally, they talk about the debt burden in Tanzania. Wabunge wabainisha madeni ambayo serikali inadaiwa, wataka mkakati wa kuyalipa. Wanasema deni lazima ilipwe. They continue with this story about who hapa wosia alioacha Generali Musuguri. Generali Musuguri alikuwa mkuu wa jeshi na aliaga dunia wiki hii akiwa na miaka 104. Wanasema aliwapa wosia jinsi jangwani inavyosukwa upya kukabili mafuriko Dar.
Some good news there. I think we're seeing all this in Kenya.
Contained flooding in the big city of Dar es Salaam. Na madiwani na wabunge CCM walivyotibua kura za maoni. I'm telling you, opinion polls there, they don't like them in Tanzania.
Now how about the real polls?
They fight more about opinion polls, not even the real polling. Yeah, so even at the civic polls come up in the month of November, they don't want to hear what they're saying in the opinion polls. Wanasema ya maneno tutaki, tungoje kura ya maoni. Kura yenyewe ipigwe.
Still in Tanzania, this is the front page of the Citizen. How Tanzania has moved up startup funding ladder. Tanzania was among Africa's 4 leading destinations of startup financing in this year's third quarter, with analysts attributing the development to multiple factors, including supportive government initiatives. Say Egypt is leading, and Kenya accounted for more than 75% of Africa's startup funding the third quarter of 2024. Yeah, I remember this whole report, I think it was early this year, where Kenya were bragging the fact that we have the bragging rights to go pale kileleni on matters startup funding, and Tanzania is saying, pia sisi tunakuja.
All right.
Yes.
Kuna story hapa chini on the front page of the Citizen about the Tanzanian airline. They call it Air Tanzania, ATCL. Finally, it is set to resume Johannesburg flights. You know why this is interesting? A few years back, one of the flights just made a kawaida flight to Johannesburg and landed. Passengers disembarked. Kaambua sasa hii ndege mmeleta hapa, asanteni sana. Haitoki. Because mko na deni, hamjai lipa. So they had to negotiate. I don't know if the plane was ever released or it was resold. And now you see years later, Air Tanzania is set to resume that flight. Are they sure? Una hakika ndege ni kama tu ndege imeshuka tu hivi alafu ambwa boss. Wewe pilot shuka, hii sasa ni yetu.
This is happening in November, so wait to see how that will be.
Yes, so that's as far as the Citizen is concerned. Let's come back and take a look at the weather situation today.
Today we're taking a look at the weather in different cities in the country, and we start off with Kajiado nilieka hapo, hoping that it will one day become a city.
Kajiado City.
Yes. Right now in Kajiado and its environs, into the morning hours, it's going to be quite sunny, but do expect, as the weatherman tells us here, expect some very, very light showers in the midday. But then after that, highs of 29. So this is clear skies. Now to other cities. In Nairobi, first off, city under the sun, 16 degrees. It's going to be similar to Kajiado. Morning hours up to around 9 a.m. Do expect jua ikitokea vizuri. And then into the midday, some cloudy conditions and some very, very light showers. And after that, highs of 28. In Kisumu City, right now it's 21, but then they say it feels like 24. Do expect some light, no, this is actually some above average kind of rainfall. Let's see the precipitation. 2.8 millimeters. That goes to show how it just might be raining in Kisumu, particularly in the mid-morning. Then in the morning, and then into the mid-morning, the skies might be clear, but then getting into the afternoon and the evening, do expect some light showers. And in Mombasa, 26, but they say it feels like 29 and it's 6 a.m. Hey, watu wa Mombasa pale, watu wa Costi, hey, mwaishi aje hivi? Mid-morning, up to mid-morning, it's cloudy. Then after that, highs of 30 degrees in the weather Christmas imeanza kuingia.
All right.
Finally, yes, in Eldoret. Eldoret is now a city. 13 degrees right now. Highest temperatures in Eldoret city is 25 degrees. Chances of raining today, I think it's 0.0 millimeters. So, leo if you're in Eldoret, hakuna haja ya kuvaa jacket. Yes.
All right. So generally warm weather across the country.
Yes.
Apart from areas like Eldoret, that is a bit low in the morning. But yeah, 25 degrees is decent warm weather.
Yes.
Right.
A quick look at what is going to be expected in our subsequent bulletins, as well as our digital platforms in our news diary. First off, as Fred was alluding to earlier, the High Court will today decide whether to lift orders barring the swearing in of Deputy President designate, that is Professor Kithure Kindiki. Also, a 3-judge bench will be ruling on whether the High Court has powers to determine the ouster of Rigathi Gachagua, impeached Deputy President. President William Ruto is actually enjoined in this, that bit of whether High Court has the jurisdiction to be determining this matter, or because in that matter, President William Ruto says that this matter should be taken to the Supreme Court instead. So it's going to be big on that. Lecturers began the strike, and it continues, so wait to see how that will be in the whole talks between WASU and the government. Also, the Kenya Intermediate Level Education Assessment, that is KILEA, might just be concluding today. These exams began on Monday. KILEA is for the special needs students. And then what I had mentioned earlier today, Halloween is happening today, the eve of this day. It is a holiday celebrated each year on October 31st and will be occurring today. That is just a nutshell of what is in our news diary. Also,
we're keeping tabs with the elections in the US.
Oh yes,
it's only 5 days. 5 days to election day. It's happening next Tuesday on the 5th of November. And they're doing last-minute campaigns, and there's one word, garbage, that is the biggest talking point on both campaigns. So there's one person during President Trump's campaign who called Puerto Rico a large island of garbage. Then President Biden on the other side
called Trump.
He's accused of calling Trump supporters garbage. So yesterday, President Trump used a garbage truck from the airport. He disembarked from his plane and drove a garbage truck around. So it's getting interesting as I get to the home stretch of the US elections. You can read a part of it on page 26 of the Standard. Harris versus Trump, Russia shaping poll narratives.
Oh yes.
Turudi tuangazie magazeti ya hapa nyumbani.
Yes. Smart people read the Star.
Smart people do read the Star. Ruto Shah shocker for middle class pay slips. That story is on pages 4 and 5. We had talked about it earlier. So they say health economists and trade union leaders who spoke to the Star paint a gloomy picture for workers, asserting that while the state is overzealous in raiding the increasingly thinning pay slip of the working class, the taxpayer do not get value for money. And that's the question. Yes, you will deduct, but will it mean anything for me? Will my life change because I'm paying more for this? So that's the main story there. There's another interesting story on the front page. A former Iebc boss Oswago, and I think we've forgotten about such people when Oswago. He's set to appeal a verdict in 1.3 billion shillings tender graft case. Other quick highlights on the front page of this paper. Raila's party gags members on deal with President Ruto. So they've been cautioned against making unsanctioned public comments on the political deal with President William Ruto's UDA.
Till they get
amembo munaongea sana, nyamazeni.
I didn't party approval from the minority.
They've been gagged. Mystery of 18 billion shilling hole in Ketraco budget books. Wow, 18B. And gunfight, a second suspect arrested in a Yeko murder. This are just some of the stories on the Star today. Let's move on swiftly to the People Daily.
So Ruto's scheme for 2027 polls. So first off, with Raila in the bag, opposition nearly dead, impeached deputy president severely wounded, president smoothens road to re-election. But really, is it that smooth? or it's just seemingly that smooth. Then this story is imelinganishwa na hiyo iko hapo kando, as Gachagua vows to teach him a lesson. They say the time to reckon is coming shortly. We will show them how we respond to our adversaries, he declares. And the persona there is impeached DP Rigathi Gachagua. Pale juu, shock after KPSEA candidates miss exam, 23 candidates to be specific.
CSO education ni nani?
Bigambo. Migosi. Ogamba, yes.
Bado watu hawajui CSO education. Is it on the front page of the People Daily? All right, that's the People Daily. Let's move on swiftly to the Daily Nation. That big question, why is the CIA in Kenya? What UK, US want from Ruto? So the British have apparently threatened to withdraw funding to keep projects should abductions continue. Elsewhere, an upgrade of Kenya's security surveillance system and establishment of another US military base featured in separate talks between President Ruto and foreign intelligence chiefs the nation has established. CIA Director William Burns and Britain's MI6 Chief Richard Moore also expressed concerns with abductions and the manner in which state agencies are targeting human rights defenders. But hey, Mbona, why so much interest in Kenya all of a sudden? Within 1 week, we have the CIA Director and the MI6 Chief. Nasikia tu watu wakipeana majibu all over. Hakuna kitu mnajua. Soma gazeti la Nation ndio mjue maneno ya ukweli. All right, they also, D-Day for Gachagua is there on the top strip. Other questions, 5.3 billion shillings that are split, striking dawns on the state. And matters shift. There's another experience from a patient. She's saying, stop sending us to early graves. Chronically ill patients cry over SHIF crisis. And there are concerns as 97 women have been killed in 3 months. Now a return to, this is, you can actually classify it as femicide.
Yes, but then the Deputy Inspector General says, no, it's not gender related.
It's just crime.
Yes.
Okay.
And so
anyway,
somewhat
whether femicide or normal crime, it shouldn't be happening either way.
Yes.
So waangalie maneno waache kuongea kwa magazeti.
On the front page of the Standard, they say no hiding as careless spies on your money. Faced with increased government spending and limited revenue generating avenues, President Ruto's cash-strapped government is resorting to aggressive measures to boost revenues. So KRA has written to banks and telcos to integrate tax systems to bank accounts and digital money in a move that has drawn strong protests over implications on personal data privacy. They say 7 million is the number of people with KRA PIN numbers, a small number when contrasted with 30 million registered M-Pesa customers transacting billions daily, according to President William Ruto. And I remember when in his very first days in office, he had mentioned this as well. Remember, it was during the KRA day as well. Okay. So they're really big on making sure that this particular promise is made. Other conversations, IMF is back on the front pages, and is it going to be good news? Well, we wait to see, because yesterday, apparently, the executive board of IMF was supposed to sit in Washington to discuss, among others, a critical multi-billion-dollar loan disbursement that economists warn is crucial for Kenya's economy and could have far-reaching implications for its trajectory in the country's access to international financing. So it's a whole anxiety.
There are two stories that I want us to pay attention to. On page 2, they talk about Mbili Bell. Those who don't know, Mbili Bell is one of the African songstresses.
Yes.
Mbili Bell to headline Pan-African Festival at Carnival this Saturday. It is this is Congolese songstress Mbili Bell will perform at this Pan-African Rumba Festival. So for the lovers of Rumba, that's something to look forward to. The other story is on page 3. There's a prisoner who has sued the state for fish and margarine in his daily special diet. This is a murder convict. He says he is HIV positive and his nutritionist has prescribed a special diet. Now he wants prison authorities compelled to provide the 2 food items and that this be put in the law.
Yeah.
So ametumia picha pale ya samaki. Can you imagine if people in prison are being fed like this?
Yeah.
Anyway. Anasema yeye amepewa hii ma advice na nutritionist, so he's not just coming from nowhere. He's saying if I don't eat like this, that's a death sentence. I'm just going to die. Did you bring me here to die? Right.
That's very ironical. I mean, you call it a death sentence and you didn't bring me here to die.
All right, so that's the Standard today.
Yes. Tuangalie gazeti lingine na ni gazeti la Taifa Leo, sema wafanya mtihani feki. Mshangao wasimamizi wa shule ya kibinafsi kuwapa watahiniwa wakapsea nakala za mtihani wa mwaka jana. Hatima wanafunzi 23 wa grade ya 6 katika kaunti ya Uasin Gishu. It had to be Uasin Gishu. Anyway, sasa inaning'inia pabaya baada ya kufanya mtihani feki wa kutathmini elimu yao ya shule ya msingi maarufu kama KPSEA.
And that's just sad because what happens to the learners? Will they now be allowed to transition to junior secondary school? Because they've not sat for KPSEA, the one designed for them, they were given old papers from last year.
I'm keen to see how this is going to be, because unlike, let's say for KCPE, it was 100% cumulative. But then for this one, it's 40% the test, and then they take 60% of what you've been learning.
Are they saying this exam doesn't matter? It is inconsequential. Hata tukifanya last year, mko sawa tu mnaweza endelea.
Mshapata 60%, so hiyo 40% ulikuwa unatafuta hapa.
If that is the case, then sawa.
Well, other conversations, pale juu is someone who was among the CS list. Ametumika pale, asema waliokosa CS. Chief Administrative Secretaries wataka pia mnofu walioteuliwa naibu waziri wataka Rais Ruto arushika kitu pale.
Yes, and they use Millicent Omanga there because she had been nominated for the Nairobi River Commission to chair.
Lakini akasema
because of some reasons, I think staweza. Niletu akusema we want, now this paper decides. Alisema mimi nataka a better job. Don't give me that position.
This has been happening a lot this year. President William Ruto appointing someone, and then this person coming to say, thank you very much for this post, but I have, consulted with family and friends, blah, 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 but...
All right, so that's an interesting story there. Yes. And the story I was telling you about, Biden akana kuita wafuasi takataka. It's there on the front page of the Taifa Leo.
Usisahau, usione kama Mani, we have a new coach. Jana tulichapa watu Leicester 5 goals. 5.
Ligi gani hiyo?
5 goals. Carabao Cup.
Ligi ndogo. Ligi ndogo.
Hata nyinyi mko hapo.
Ligi ndogo kama timu yenyewe. Matters business, how 175 billion shilling roads bond caused a rise in fuel prices. So Treasury approves roads board's request to issue bond. Meanwhile, Trade and Development Bank has been picked as lead arranger. You can read more about this infrastructure and why it is resulting in increased fuel prices. Another story down here. Scan Group former CEO fight over secret WhatsApp texts. Na unajua watu wanafikirianga WhatsApp tu itapotea to thin air. Kama vile Snapchat huwa inapotea. Years later, because this feud has been going on for years now. Scan Group and the former CEO wanasema back then kulikuwa na message tulituma kwa WhatsApp. Wewe angalia.
Adima logins za Zuma computer. Even the data commissioner has been entangled in all this. You can read that there. Tuangalie caricature alafu tumalizie na the traffic. On the Standard, this is, I think this is my best today.
Missing person announcement. Another missing person. And they're just talking about this because they know there are so many people who have been reported missing.
Yes.
So they use that same narrative for this caricature. But the person who's been missing, they say, name Didi Nyororo. Last seen during a budget, Kamukunji, wearing a yellow t-shirt, black trousers, and green sneakers.
Yes.
If seen, please contact +254 Parliament or report to Kiharo constituents. So they're talking about Dini Nyoro, the MP for Kiharu, a caricature of him there. He's made it, finally. He's been missing in action. But I think he was spotted in Naivasha recently during a meeting for MPs. But he's generally been missing from the public eye.
Yes, but then also the fact that he's been silent over a number of issues also for the Rigathi Gachagua impeachment.
He's one among those who's been touted to actually replace Rigathi Gachagua. Earlier this year, most of those people who were behind the impeachment were rooting for Ndindi Nyoro to be Gachagua's replacement as deputy president.
during that whole media, he also mentioned how Ndindi Nyoro is a very close ally of him. So
now he's another missing person. On the Daily Nation,
kuna judiciary hapa scavenging through the rubbish and ametoa the finance bill 2023. Ilikuwa ndani ya rubbish bin, ikatolewa,
imepata a new lease of life. Finally on the People Daily.
See, finally kuna the Star bado.
Oh, bado kuna Star.
Yes.
So the Deputy President, a caricature of him here, he has tried out all these things. Public participation, he challenged the impeachment on those grounds.
Yes.
It didn't work. He issued an apology to his boss. It did not work. He was hoping Parliament would save him. They impeached him. Senate upheld the same. The courts might just go that way. So anasema, there's one more last attempt.
Kuna kitu Raila aliwaifanya siku moja.
How about asking Ruto for mkate nusu?
Yes.
But hii bakuja sana. Hii inaweza kweli.
And then finally, the Star, it also talks about Rigathi Gachagua ndio hiyo hapo kwa cartoon.
Right.
Yes. So apparently the UDA NEC, National Executive Committee, the party's decision-making organ, is sent to kick Rigathi Gachagua out as deputy party leader. And as you can see, that Hassan Omar is kicking Rigathi Gachagua out, and inside is other party leaders looking there.
It's interesting that they've already packed his bag and they've put it on a wheelbarrow. But it's a white wheelbarrow. The bag is yellow, yes, but it's a white wheelbarrow. Naweza sukuma yoki endanga.
Mathira Express.
So these are just some of the discussions we'll be having with my panelists after the break. So do stand by for that. Can we have that slide with the panelists who are coming up after the break? Yes. James Gakuya, MP Embakasi North. We are hoping Gigi Kagombe, MP Gatundu North, will be joining us. Wilson Sosion, a former MP and former SGKNUT, is already in studio for this. Geoffrey Ruku will not be making it to studio, so the three gentlemen. Oh, he will. Yes, I made to understand that Geoffrey Ruku, MP Mbeere North, will also be here. So yes, the panel will be as you see on your screen. Do stand by for that and a lot more. Later on?
Yes, later on we talk about jobs abroad for Kenyans. Is this a conversation that we should actually be having as a country, or tutafutie tu jobs hapa hivi ndani ya country? Moses Adala, CEO Competitive Manpower, will be joining us for that. But then before that conversation, we talk about National Foster Care Week. How it is important for children to live in an upright parental kind of a system in the country, and kutoka the streets and then having them in the right kind of a family. All that, and then later
we'll
on,
wrap up the show with some yoga.
Yeah.
Fitness Thursday. Shiksha Arora, of course, Nyaringeta can do some things. So Shiksha Arora will be taking you through that with a yoga instructor.
You need to make sure mwili iko smooth vizuri for the very long weekend.
Yes. All right. Let's take a break now. You're watching Morning Cafe.
Vile unavyojua watoto wengi sana hawana namna. Mimi ningependelea watoto wasome.
I'm here to stress on education. At the same time, let us actually do any kind of sport that we are doing. Sport speaks the best language to everybody.
Tunataka tutafute talents. Zile raw talents kutoka kule nyumbani mashinani mahali tuko leo.
Hizi mbio za Chepsaita, like all other sports, zinaleta watu pamoja.
We want to use this event to uplift the lives of the community.
Anafurahia hii mchezo sana. Hata sikaange na ambianga watu tuende Chepsaita.
Wanafunzi wakimbie ili wakuze talanta ya mbio ama kuhimiza tena elimu.
This is the place to be. Hapa ndipo mahali wanastahili kuwa tarehe 7. Wale watoto walikimbia last year, wamekimbia mpaka wamefuka mipaka zetu za Kenya.
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Join us as we explore the journeys of those who defy the odds and break barriers. We dive deep into the stories of triumph.
Sometimes when parenting a child with a special need or whatever disability, family life becomes a bit complicated and you may end up raising the child on your own.
Here, we inspire.
I have a farm which one we showcase with other dyslexic youths and autism, how to farm.
Motivate.
It's never easy, but what we do, the best thing is to work with another parent who has an elder child than yours.
And break through the barriers one story at a time. Push your boundaries beyond the limit. Saturdays at 8 p.m. The Grind, where business meets brilliance. It's not just about the ideas.
I was working as a shampoo boy. I used to wash clients' hair on the sink.
It's about making them happen. From big wins.
In primary school, when we would be asked what people want to be, I was categorical that I want to be a nurse.
To hard lessons.
The consoles change, the gaming equipment keep changing.
We cover it all. Tune in to The Grind, where every episode is packed with insights.
The person who is serving customers, always be a customer-centric.
Strategies.
When you pay attention to detail, you get luxury items.
And stories to fuel your ambition. Don't just dream it, grind it. Mondays at 7:30 p.m.
Jiunge nasi tunapoangazia safari za viongozi bora. Kutoka kwa ushindi mkubwa hadi masomo magumu.
Wakati wetu kwamba wasichana si wa kusoma, ni wa kuolewa, ng'ombe ipatikane, wazazi wakuwa watajiri.
Tunashughulikia yote.
I wish I were a better investor.
My parents taught me how to look for things for myself.
Tazama Mfahamu Kiongozi, ambapo kila kipindi kimejaa maarifa, mikakati na hadithi za kukuza azma yako.
For me to succeed, I have to fight.
Kila Alhamisi saa 1:30.
Welcome back. You're still on TV 47. This is a Morning Cafe. My name is Freddie Ndimuli. Time for State of the Nation, where we take a look at the big headlines. This morning, the headlines are as varied as they come. No hiding as KRA spies on your money. That's a big one on the Standard. Matters to do with digital tax systems. On the front page of the Daily Nation, what the UK and US want from Ruto. Remember, it's been a very busy week, and curiously, Two gentlemen. The Central Intelligence Agency, that's the CIA Director William Burns, was in the country same week as Britain's MI6 chief Richard Moore. So what exactly do they want from Kenya? Some politics on the front page of the Star. Ruto, not really politics, matters to do with healthcare. Ruto shocker for middle-class pay slips. It is a conversation that has been going on for quite a while. Many of those informal employments are now getting to see their pay slips for the month of October, and many of them are in shock at just how high the deductions are. 2.75% shift deduction adds to housing levy, increased pay for top learners. But if we take a look at the other papers, the People Daily decides to go with politics, a Ruto scheme for 2027 polls, but also makes mention of this story on education. Shock after KPSEA candidates miss exams. That shocking story on matters education is also there on the front page of Taifa Leo. Habari kuu kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa gazeti la Taifa Leo anasema wafanya mtihani feki. Mshangao wasimamizi wa shule ya kibinafsi kuwapa watahiniwa KPSEA nakala za mtihani wa mwaka jana. This morning we're privileged to have in studio Wilson Sosion, former MP and former SG KNUT. Bwana Sosion, it's good to have you in studio. Karibu sana.
Asante.
Alongside Bwana Sosion, you have James Gakuya, MP Embakasi North. Gentlemen, let's start with this issue on education. And we've been talking about just the kind of approach this administration has had on matters education, from the university funding model to the transition, CBC, JSS, employment of teachers, so many different things. And now we're seeing even the conduct of examinations at that very low level being conducted in a seemingly blasé manner, that anything goes. A situation where candidates sitting for this exam are even issued with examinations from last year. Bwana Sosion, this is something very close to your heart, matters education. What would you say to this kind of headlines?
Well, it's a very extensive conversation, and probably we need a standalone time to discuss education. The Kenya Kwanza education policy framework was conceived out of extensive public conversations, and it appreciated that there are huge challenges within the sector, that it cannot be fixed all at once. But we must have a proper framework of addressing all of them, ranging from funding model to complete review of CBC, and one of them was downgrading KPSEA exams to a mere process evaluation exam. And to me, I think we are yet to see proper traction of the policies adopted by Kenya Kwanza administration as contained in the Presidential Working Party in education reforms, PWBR, where we expect the comprehensive school model to take shape. That now we no longer have what you call primary and secondary. We only have comprehensive schools spanning pre-primary to grade 9, and with a master plan to improve the quality framework in terms of infrastructure, in terms of quality teaching and learning resources, in terms of effective teacher deployment and preparation for that level. So that then KPSEA exams is just one of the national evaluation, routine evaluation test. But as you can see, some private operators, and there have been a lot of flagships of businesses within the education sector from 2013, including the operation of extensive private schools that operate outside the set guidelines and law. And you can see students being taken through evaluation tests that are not part of the Kenya National Examination Council. That's is actually a crime. Somebody should be in by now. And I think for us to witness proper traction and results and indicators of the Kenya Kwanza education framework is to fully and totally implement the Presidential Working Party report on education and reforms, and quickly administratively reconfigure the Ministry of Education in two areas. One, ensuring that accountability structures exist for the funds and the money that are pumped into the basic education sector by strengthening the school audit, because currently schools are not audited. The manner in which the free education money is transmitted is questionable, is difficult to account, and there could be a lot of losses and lack of value to the public, and even particularly to the learners. Number two, we saw systematic collapse of quality assurance and standard, what we call inspectorate section of education. No education in the world and within the Commonwealth standards can operate without an inspectorate or quality assurance framework. Like now, as Kenya, let us ask ourselves, we are rolling out a new curriculum which nobody understands, is resource intensive, and I don't think the economy is strong enough to sufficiently deliver what is intended within the ideal CBC framework. It's resource intensive. The human resource has not been adequately prepared. We don't have proper preparation of infrastructure. But wasn't it all? We don't have a monitoring and evaluation system to give us adequate feedback so that we can address the gaps. Why? We have a dead quality assurance and standards department. So there are a lot of things to be dealt with in terms of leadership, in terms of management, in terms of education planning and due execution, rather than leaving it to whimsical political moods of the moment. You know, political moods will keep changing every 5 years or every 10 years. But education is a commodity of perpetuity, which is a right to all households across the country, and that must be offered equitably, qualitatively to all children. So there's a lot of work to be done within the sector. That I agree. But that is subject to proper framework.
Education should not be left to the whims of politics, or changes even in governments should not mean this kind of radical changes, or should not necessarily affect the quality of education in a country. Are we saying that probably it was not right for this administration to effect so many radical changes, especially probably in the university funding model, now that the transition to CBC, which did not start with this administration but has proven quite tasking? Can the president just sit back and say, okay, fine, it was not my problem, I'm not the one who introduced this new curriculum, then let it just fail? Is it right for him to just sit back and watch as things go wrong?
Thank you, Mori. Allow me to salute viewers wherever they are watching us this morning. And coming to matters education, it is true that education curriculum is not something that any single government should move into haste to make radical changes. This is purely because once you migrate from a particular curriculum to another without giving it enough time, then it tells you that that haste may cost you. And one, there has to be preparation for tutors, versed on what changes are coming in, so that in fact they can be able to undertake whatever new system has come. Number two, you must be also ready with what we call facilities. You must have those infrastructures ready to adopt the new system. Number three is that it matters to do with the stalemate in our universities. It's not something that, in fact, the government should move in the speed to make radical changes. One, the system that we have been using there before, even though it has hitches, then you need to learn from those more hitches and make slight amendments, because the system has been working. But today, you find a situation where you bring a totally different system where you are clustering students as per as per the capacities of their parents economically. This measure, to me, is totally out of space. Because what it will do, it will totally lock out many. Because you cannot work under what we call pay slips and decide that this parent is capable of enrolling these particular children or paying for fees of these particular children. Assume I am an earner of 50,000. Then assume all these tax regime that that entitled to my salaries, and then probably I have my own mortgages, and then you expect me earning almost zero at the end, then I have capacity to take my children all the way to the university level from my own pocket. This, I think, is something that we must allow times over time to not to completely collapse the current systems. Give them time, study them, because once you migrate immediately, they totally will bring chaos to the system. And I can tell you for sure, we have not gotten it right to the migration from the previous primary system to the current. Even to date, there are still issues to do with the tutors that we don't have enough. Number two, facilities, we don't have enough. Facilities like what we call matters to do with one, classrooms, number two, laboratories. All these things are not ready. If you are not ready with what we call budgets, then why do you move with the speed to migrate?
Okay.
Yes, allow yourself to move to your capability. One, by what we call money to transform. Yes. And number two, make sure that as you move on with everybody, yes, including the administration. If you leave anybody behind, then tells you that's a big mess you are doing.
But Asuncion, probably these concerns are the reason why President William Ruto opted to have that presidential working party on education reforms, because he clearly may have seen that there is some gaps that need to be addressed. Yet recommendations by that group appear either not to have been taken into account, or even if they were, they are still not providing the solution. Where do you think the problem is? That an exercise like that, which was so extensive and may have cost the taxpayer quite some good amount of money, is not really helping the situation?
Yeah, that's a valid question. Is a question everybody is asking, including us. One, the president signed an education charter on 23rd of June 2022 after negotiating with the stakeholders, and that formed the framework of the education policy for Kenya Kwanza administration. And it was on, and a lot of challenges were identified therein, both for basic education, TVET, and universities. And the president undertook to appoint a presidential working party upon election to address various issues and engage in extensive public conversation with Kenyans, because education is a public good, and we agreed public conversation is good and extensive dialogue is good, so that these particular matters can be addressed. The presidential working party did its work, it gave recommendation, and in fact, to operationalize the very many recommendations within the presidential working party requires legislative amendments and coming up with new legislations. Those pieces of legislation, I don't think they've seen the flow of parliament, including the session of paper. It has not seen the flow of parliament. Why it's moving slowly, personally, I can't explain why, and I can't account, but my considered professional feeling is that the Presidential Working Party on Education and Reforms should have been fully and totally implemented by now. We saw reservations that were raised by the National Assembly, but I think the question that were raised by the National Assembly was more of process than, but not the recommendation.
So meaning the report is already before the House?
No, the report should be, yes, it's not yet in the House. The session of paper is not yet in the House. So really, I don't see how most of it can be fully implemented. In fact, Parliament, where Mheshimiwa sits, is a facilitating institution, so it should be able to look at all those things. And we cannot put the cart before the horse. Things to do with university funding model, it was discussed, and there was need to enhance help from 13 billion to 30 billion, which has been done. And of course, funding of universities from 54 billion to 84 billion, but not without reforming the funding model. The current funding model is student-based. And being student-based with an MTI, mean testing instrument, that is able to fund students across the band. There are those who came in and started implementing what even they didn't understand and brought in consultancies and put aside the mean testing instrument that has been used by HELP for over the years. The MTI is the MTI process that places the students in the respective bands is supposed to be done by Higher Education Loans Board. Is a corporate legal entity that deals with these matters. Okay. And I don't understand why at some point it was shoved and some consultancy came up with their own MTI, which has not been tested anywhere, and which banded students very wrongly, and it created the mess where we are. So some of these things are created by individuals, by people. The model in place, the funding model, is the best, as outlined by the president, because it's well consulted. But the question of extensive public participation was lacking, and interference by business interests who would like to do a bit of consultancy. So for me, I would think the funding model would even work better if the entire Presidential Working Party on Education and Reforms report is fully implemented and the funding model is taken through a process of public participation. We follow the law. Let us let HELP do its work. Let us not hijack the work that is a mandate of various legitimate institutions. And if that is done, people will understand what the funding model is all about, because those who will be placed in Band 1 are the most vulnerable households, which is a significant number, and that will receive almost 95 or 100% funding from government. And that speaks to the true bottom-up economic transformation agenda. So the issue here is, how are we translating the education charter that the president signed into practice as was envisaged, both in letter and spirit, through the conversation with the stakeholders? The number two, how are we implementing the Presidential Working Party report effectively so that we can transform the education sector within a short time? Noting that we have a challenge of rolling out a curriculum that is so complicated, very alien to Kenya. It was brought politically through the last regime, and it was fast-tracked without following the necessary professional steps. It has given challenges. It is giving challenges. It's a talk of conversation every day. We didn't prepare teachers. We have a model and learning or subject areas, but we are employing and deploying teachers who are not trained in the subjects that are available within the curriculum. There is a total mismatch. We don't have a monitoring and evaluation framework, and I think generally we need a strong leadership in this place and strategic measures to deal with the gaps to the satisfaction of the public. Okay. We cannot roll out and manage an education system when there are grumbles all over the place, and it would even be very dangerous if it gets to a point that teachers stop talking. Teachers stop giving their views, teachers keep quiet and resort to defending their payslip and move on with life, then it means we, and let us look at it general.
Yes.
The competitive, the global competitiveness of our education in terms of global ranking has dropped from #1 in Africa. Now we are at #7, and we are likely to move downwards if this is not addressed.
Okay.
Some urgency needs to be done so that
issues of education
can be addressed.
Issues of education are top of our minds this morning because of some of the headlines we're seeing on the dailies. On this mainly have to do with the management of KPSEA exams, but of course the conversation is much bigger about the general handling of the education sector by this administration. Shock after KPSEA candidates miss exam. That's on page 5 of the People Daily. It is a big story on the front page of Taifa Leo. Anasema wafanya mitihani feki. Mshangao wasimamizi wa shule ya kibinafsi kuwapa watahiniwa wa KPSEA nakala za mtihani wa mwaka jana. These are just some of the challenges as captured by the dailies today, but the challenges within the education sector are much more than this. After the break, we move on to other discussions, so do stand by for that. You're watching Morning Cafe.
Vile unavyojua watoto wengi sana hawana namna. Mimi ningependelea watoto wasome.
I'm here to stress on education. At the same time, let us actually do any kind of sport that we are doing. Sport speaks the best language to everybody.
Tunataka tutafute talents. Zile raw talents kutoka kule nyumbani mashinani mahali tuko leo.
Hizi mbio za Chepsaita, like all other sports, zinaleta watu pamoja.
We want to use this event to uplift the lives of the community.
Anafurahia hii mchezo sana. Hata sikaange naambianga watu tuende Chepsaita.
Wanafunzi wakimbie ili wakuze talanta ya mbio ama kuhimiza tena elimu.
This is the place to be. Hapa ndipo mahali wanastahili kuwa tarehe 7. Wale watoto walikimbia last year, wamekimbia mpaka wamefuka mipaka zetu za Kenya.
Hey there friends, welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in? I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
You're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Join us as we explore the journeys of those who defy the odds and break barriers. We dive deep into the stories of triumph.
Sometimes when parenting a child with a special need or whatever disability, family life becomes a bit complicated and you may end up raising the child on your own.
Here, we inspire.
I have a farm which one we showcase with other dyslexic youths and autism how to farm.
Motivate.
It's never easy, but what we do, the best thing is to work with another parent who has an elder child than yours.
And break through the barriers one story at a time. Push your boundaries beyond the limit. Saturdays at 8 p.m. The Grind, where business meets brilliance. It's not just about the ideas.
I was working as a shampoo boy. I used to wash clients' hair on the sink.
It's about making them happen. From big wins.
In primary school, when we would be asked what people want to be, I was categorical that I want to be a nurse.
To hard lessons.
The consoles change, the gaming equipment keep changing.
We cover it all. Tune in to The Grind, where every episode is packed with insights.
The person who is serving customers.
All right, welcome back. You're still watching Morning Cafe. This is TV47 and my name is Fred Indimuli. We continue with the State of the Nation, a look at the big headlines and the big discussions with James Gakuya, MP Embakasi North, Wilson Sosion, former MP and former SG of KNUT, and now joining the panel, Geoffrey Ruku, MP Mbeere North. Good morning, karibu sana.
Good morning.
Yes, gentlemen, I want us now to move to a different discussion. Just before the break, we focused on matters education. Now I want us to look at the big question on matters health, the other big sector locally. On the front page of the Star, Ruto Shah shocker for middle class pay slips. This is after many people are coming to terms with the reality that the 2.75% deduction from the gross pay for the very first time. It is also a story on featured on the front page of the Daily Nation, where some of the patients are saying, stop sending us to early graves. These are chronically ill patients who are crying over the shift crisis. Patients suffering from chronic diseases are struggling to get treatment as hospitals demand cash because of the challenges with the new health system. We also do have a story as filed by one of our reporters at TV47. Let's watch it before we embark on this discussion.
We have had discussion. There has been apprehension, there has been anxiety, there has been a bit of tension between by the members of the defunct NHIF, the staff that were working with NHIF. So, but we have given them very clear.
Concerns continue to rise regarding the rollout of the Social Health Authority SHA as oncologists highlight the strain placed on cancer patients, stating that SHA's promises only appear effective on paper.
SHA is very good on paper. It looks very good with the expanded coverage. It looks perfect on diagnosis and especially the preventive. But we want things on the ground to reflect what is on the paper.
The Social Health Authority SHA has made efforts to improve coverage, setting a maximum cancer care allowance at 400,000 Kenyan shillings per patient. Despite this coverage, the high cost of cancer treatment poses a financial burden on patients and families, with SHA's implementation raising concerns.
We do recognize the challenge in terms of rolling out and in terms of the limits that we have, but the confidence that we bring to the public is it is a starter benefits package that seeks to be revised with availability of funding.
So this haraka ya kufunga NHIF na kuleta SHA ndio iko na maswali. Hata mimi niko na maswali. Kuna wezekano kuwa kuna watu walichota pesa kutoka kwa NHIF na wanataka kufunga NHIF haraka sana ndio ushahidi ya ile waliochota isijulikane.
Cancer patients are facing delays in receiving treatment due to the slow process of obtaining pre-authorization for their coverage under SHA. Hospitals are also reporting increased waiting times for treatment approval and express concerns of a lack of commitment from the government to clear pending bills, which further limits hospitals' ability to provide uninterrupted care.
So I visited two hospitals. One hospital, I found out that they have asked patients to wait until SHA approves your request before you're treated. And the systems that are being used to run SHA are dropping every hour.
According to the Kenya Society of Hematology and Oncology, KESHO, cancer remains the leading cause of death in Kenya, yet uptake of screening services remains low, with only 12% of communities actively engaged.
Uptake of screening services and the uptake of the community outreach in Kenya, the uptake of screening services is still low. We are looking at about only 12% of the communities in Kenya are able to access the early screening programs.
To increase public engagement, KESHO is launching launching a screening drive in Kisumu on November 19, targeting youth aged 9 to 14 and men aged 45 years and above. The initiative will promote HPV vaccination for both boys and girls and highlight the need for cervical cancer screening, as cervical cancer remains the leading cause of cancer-related deaths among women in the country, despite being preventable. Ann Odida, TV47.
Yes, statements like only good on paper is what we're hearing about this transition to the new healthcare system. Now, that juxtapose it with what you're seeing on the front page of the Star, that the deductions being made to especially those in formal employment have kicked in, so there's money. So the issues of workers' rights, the cost on Kenyans, the rush to transition. Earlier this week we had the president call out critics of this administration, saying that they're fed by fake news and propaganda. Now, most of the criticism that has gone towards this administration has been mainly to do with this health issue. Bwana Ruku, let's start with you. You are a member of the National Assembly, and I'm sure many of your constituents are going through these challenges as well. Do you think this issue has been handled properly? And where is a problem? The money is there. Spicy. How come this transition 30 days later is not working?
I think, as you have said, or some of the people who have commented, they have said the transition from NHIF to SHA or SHIF, there are some teething problems. But synchronization of the systems seem to be having some issues. But the whole idea is a very beautiful idea, because you are talking about level 2 hospital, level 3 hospital, 4 and 5 and 6. Level 2 hospitals are dispensaries we have in our villages. That there is a primary health care fund which should be taking care of our dispensaries in the rural areas, and also level 3 hospitals in our areas. And level 3 hospitals, those are the ones we call health centers. To synchronize the system, to ensure there is a system which is tracking all the drugs which are legit. You know, in Kenya, we have many fake drugs which are being sold in all manner of places. It's a system which will enable us to kick out all the fake drugs we have in the Republic. So, and this system will be able to see the budgets of the drugs available in every dispensary, in every health center in the Republic of Kenya. So it's a very well thought program, but the implementation is where there is a challenge. So the question is, who are the implementers of this system? We are talking about the CEO of the new system, who is the Social Health Fund. We are talking about the senior management. We are talking about the PS in charge of health. We are talking about the minister in charge of health. What is this year doing on a day-to-day basis to ensure the synchronization of the system? Those who are migrating from National Health Insurance Fund to Social Health Authority, they can be able to be seen once their details are logged in the system. They can be able to be traced. They can be able to be treated. At the same time, in Kenya, as you have said rightly, we are consuming fake news as much as possible, disinformation and misinformation. People are not accepting whether have you registered in the system. I even tempted to go and test the system, because myself I have registered, to go and see whether indeed this is happening. I know I've been called by my constituents, several of them, that they have gone to hospital and that they have not been treated. They had NHIF card, they have registered with the new system. They have been told that they can't be treated. I have been called by several, and that is a case to every corner of this country. But also, I have heard some people saying those who are going to the hospital and are not getting treated, they have not registered with the SHA. So I don't know where the truth is. I don't know where the truth is.
Let me ask this question.
But the thing is, in case the synchronization of this system is the problem, we should hold accountable the CEO and the senior management of Social Health Authority. If this system is not properly synchronized, we need to hold accountable the principal secretary and the cabinet secretary in charge of health. Because we cannot sit as the leaders of this nation and see the agony which patients are going through. Lives are being lost in the name of synchronizing a system.
It is the year 2024. Technology has really moved way beyond the way it was a few years back. We've, as a country, witnessed even serious projects, like even voter registration, where the Iebc goes out and within a period of about 30 days or 40 days, they go out and register millions of Kenyans.
Yes.
And they all become voters.
Yes.
So it is a process that can happen, Bwana Gakuya. If at all, people just take time, and if it's the registration that is a problem, then you go out and do a proper registration campaign. We are being deducted money, 2.75% of our gross pay, which is a huge implication to the livelihoods of so many different Kenyans. People expect that with this kind of commitment, then the services would be way better, but it's not happening. Yes, it is a matter of life and death. People are dying. Those with clinical illnesses, they're being left to die. Why? Because they cannot access treatment. One wonders, because it is not a knee-jerk reaction. This plan has been there for over a year. The SHIF. How come we transitioned into it without proper registration, without proper plans? And where was the National Assembly when all this happened? If your role as representations of the people of Kenya should be played properly, then this should have been one of those things that the National Assembly flagged and probably said it cannot happen until Kenyans are ready.
Thank you, Ndimori. And coming to the concern of this serious matter, what I would like to say is that there is a mistake of transition. Because one, you are not supposed to close the shop, which is shop A, because you are migrating to shop B. Today we have a nightmare where you realize that all the private hospitals are not willing to give services today. And their complaint is that in fact they are not sure whether their bills that actually were crossed and cleared by the NHIF are going to be honored. There is nobody who has come to give them assurance. You know, assurance has been, the promises has been there, but I don't think that it was wise to migrate without clearing with the pending bills, because that's a major problem. Today, if you hear from the clients are saying in public hospitals, services are there. But anybody who moves to private, it becomes a difficult situation. Then how do we do? Because the client cannot fit in only this public hospital. So to me, is that if the complaint with the service providers is that there is nobody who is giving them assurance. I think the time frame that was there before the arrangement to migrate from NHIF to SHA, everything was to be clear, and there was no need to rush, because by the time that we are migrating, remember we had only 3 million registered members. Comparing that, actually our intention was to register like 12 million. What was the hurry? I believe, in fact, in that particular whole year, the main concern was to make sure that the registration is done. And the migration of registration has been clearly done from NHIF to SHA. And therefore, whoever was a member of NHIF, by the time SHA is opening, then you are eligible to get services out of in that particular insurance. Today, it is crisis that, in fact, some of the sick people doesn't know, because once you are assume like those who get water dialysis services, which are very costly services, forced to be using that 1,000 per every services. Nobody is caring what is happening. Then it means that actually Kenyans are left on their own, because somebody has to be in charge and making sure that things are going on the right direction. And in this particular moment, I would like to say, we cannot blame the parliament, because parliament is to make sure that everything is in order. The laws and everything that is supposed to pertain to that process. But our problem is the element and the point of implementation. And I would just say, implementation stages is where we get mountains, and I don't know what happens. At the moment we are in, I don't want to blame the current CS health, but it's like this matter is a completely new and strange thing to her. I think what the technical people should do is to assist that particular CS to perform the duties as required, because the technical people are not new in this, and therefore they should be the dependent to make sure that the CS is really making things makes work. But if you leave everything to CS and then the backbenchers there are silent, then waiting the CS to fail, then where are we?
Okay, so we cannot blame Parliament, we cannot blame the CS. Who do we blame, Bwana Sosion? There's the issue of the workers' rights as well. The workers have done their bit. They've worked hard, and their money has been deducted.
It's completely unfortunate that right now, during the rollout from 1st of October, we are talking about things not working. We are talking about quite a number of things not fixed that should have been fixed before the date of the rollout. We are all aware that there was a transitional period from NHIF to SHA and the current framework that was granted from October 2023 for a whole 1 year. So the whole of that 1 year, we should have done the registration of all Kenyans. It is not difficult to do so, because health is a very critical service that affects every household equally, like education. And therefore the ministry concerned should have undertaken that responsibility. I remember the Mashucha Day of 2023, which was conducted in Kericho. The president launched the distribution of medical facilities to all institutions across the country. The president launched the community health promoters. What are the community health promoters doing if it is not about registration? And somebody should be able to question the programs that were taken and that was supposed to be done during the transitional period. At this point, it cannot be the patients who are suffering because they have not been registered. Because we can see from the public facilities, those who are registered are attended to properly. Number two, the private facilities are reluctant to implement the SHA because they're not sure whether they will be paid. Why are payments not being affected for genuine payments for private health facilities who have worked? So really, there's a lot of execution failure within the entire ecosystem. So if we did not transit properly from NHIF to SHA with all the framework, and you are trying to make systems work, you are trying to work on a technology now, that technology should have been transferred, should have been implemented long ago, simulations conducted, and I dare say, under the era of UHC, universal health coverage, it means everybody is treated. Okay. If you are sick and you appear in hospital, I don't think it would be the right thing to question about your registration and all that. You should be registered there and then get treated.
So question is,
bureaucracies like
Pre-authorization, you cannot be treated because some pre-authorization has to be done. And you look at critical ill patients, like
we've already listed all the problems, dialysis, and we understand the extent of the problem.
Being forced to make payments that they were not
listening to the president saying
NHIF.
that a lot of this criticism towards government, which includes on the rollout and implementation of this, is informed by fake news and propaganda.
No, let us move away. No, I don't want to buy that.
Are we saying that the president is misinformed? Or who should be blamed?
I don't want to comment about the information that the president...
Who is to blame, Bonasosion? Who should be blamed?
I don't want... The president wants the system to work. And if indeed there are challenges...
So it is not working right now.
The president wants the system to work. And of course, within that space, there's a lot of misinformation. So that really, we must be able to see what is factual and what is not factual. What is factual is that those who are registered and are getting to public facilities...
But at the end of the day, we have to hold someone to account.
What is factual?
Who should we hold someone?
Let me speak my issues. I've
asked you a question and you're saying no.
Let me speak my issues.
So you'll not answer that question?
What is factual is that there are patients, particularly those on dialysis, that are being forced to make payments when they're reporting for the first time.
The problems are well noted. The problems are clear, Bonasosion. That is not the issue. The problems are there on the dailies. Listing the problems again on this panel does not help. We want to hold someone to account.
Those who have been given the job by the president must do their job right. Kenyans should not complain. Now that all workers are paid, everybody is paid, and therefore everyone is covered. Those who cannot be covered, they are called indigents. They will be covered under the budget from government. So I think this matter of complaints within the rollout of UHC should be dealt with once and for all. If it is private facilities or facilities who have not been paid, can they be paid? If it is registration of Kenyans, can they be registered?
When it comes to education, we blame the ministry directly or the minister.
Even this one, we must blame the ministry.
Yes. Why are you shying away from saying?
No, we must blame the ministry.
Accountable.
And I dare say the president should fire those who are not working. Yeah, because we cannot talk about and engage in these ping-pong arguments for a long time. Yeah, the transition from October last year to October 2024 should have enabled complete transfer, if it is technology, if it is registration, if it is clearing payments, if it is auditing genuine payments within those facilities. And I think within this framework, there are also cartels, corrupt cartels who have been making money. And those corrupt cartels must also be called out and must be weeded out.
Meanwhile, on page 2 of the Daily Nation, the headline is, "Stop sending us to our graves early. Chronically ill patients cry over shift." It is a matter of life and death that no one is willing to take responsibility for. And more than a year and a month later, the transition to SHIF is still a problem. Meanwhile, Kenyans are paying 2.75% from their gross pay towards this scheme, more than they've ever paid ever before in Kenya's history. Yet no one is to blame. A sad state of affairs. Let's take a break right now. We'll come back to discuss matters to do with Iebc.
Vile unavyojua watoto wengi sana hawana namna. Mimi ningependelea watoto wasome.
I'm here to stress on education. At the same time, let us actually do any kind of sport that we are doing. Sport speaks the best language to everybody.
Tunataka tutafute talents. Zile raw talents kutoka kule nyumbani mashinani mahali tuko leo.
Hizi mbio za Chepsaita, like all other sports, zinaleta watu pamoja.
We want
use this event to uplift the lives of the community.
Anafurahia hii mchezo sana. Hata sikaange naambianga watu tuende Jabsaita.
Wanafunzi wakimbie ili wakuze talanta ya mbio ama kuhimiza tena elimu. This is the place to be. Hapa ndipo mahali wanastahili kuwa tarehe 7. Wale watoto walikimbia last year, wamekimbia mpaka wamefuka mipaka zetu za Kenya.
Hey there friends, welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
All right, more than 19 months later, we still do not have an IEBC in place. That's what we want to talk about right now. You're still watching Morning Cafe on TV 47. My name is Freddie Ndimuli. I'm still in studio with Geoffrey Ruku, MP Mbeere North, James Gakuya, MP Embakasi North, and Wilson Sosion, former MP and former SG of KNUT. On page 3 of this paper, The Standard, Azimio demands action on IEBC panel and accuses the Speaker of the National Assembly of delay. We also do have a story as filed by one of our reporters at TV47 with regard to this IEBC issue. Let's watch it now.
The Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBC, for 2 years has been operating with no commission in place following the exit of former chairperson Wafula Chebukati, Commissioners Abdi Gulie and Boyamulu in January 2023. Also, Commissioners Juliana Cherera, Justus Nyangaya, Francis Wanderi and Irene Masit were ousted from office after the 2022 general election. Opposition leaders is, however, accusing National Assembly Speaker Moses Wetangula of derailing the process by delaying to forward the proposed 9 names to form a selection committee, which will pave way for the reconstitution of IEBC.
It is obvious they want to prolong this whole thing about establishing a new IEBC. We say it plainly so that even our diplomatic colleagues, heads of missions accredited to Kenya, please take note. I heard the American ambassador to Kenya, Meg Whitman, express concern. In fact, I think she even visited the IEBC. It is clear Mr. Ruto does not want an IEBC. I think he should tell us why he doesn't want a new IEBC.
According to the opposition leaders led by Wiper boss Kalonzo Musyoka, the opposition parties had a meeting which came up with a resolution to forward the name of Kokimuli, but since then, things have remained the same.
On the on the IEBC selection panel, would like Kenyans to know that a week ago, the High Court directed the opposition parties to conduct elections in accordance with the IEBC Amendment Act 2024, and to have a nominee in place within 48 hours of this judgment, and in any event, not later than 3 p.m. on the October 24th. That was the deadline we were given, and as parliamentary parties, we did meet to address this issue under the leadership of His Excellency Dr. Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka.
The 2010 Constitution provides that IEBC will consist of a chairperson and 8 other members. Further, IEBC Act of 2011 provides that the chairperson and members of the commission shall perform their functions as provided in Constitution, and a secretariat currently headed by Chief Executive Officer Hussein Marjan Hussein shall perform the day-to-day administrative functions. The question of IEBC formation cropping up even with the recent court case on impeachment of Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. 3 constituencies and a number of wards are operating without elected leaders due to lack of commissioners.
Kazi yake ilikuwa tu ni kupeleka orodha pamoja na weta wapeleke orodha kwa rais. So that was a delaying tactic. Jambo la aibu sana hili. Tukiwa chini ya ulinzi wa katiba ya 2010, hatuwezi tukaruhusu mambo kama haya jameni. Upuzi uishe ili tuwe na tume mpya.
National Assembly Speaker Moses Wetangula, while presenting Kindiki's nomination, said that he had been cleared by IEBC to have him replace Gachagua following his impeachment.
The President indicates that as a prerequisite to the nomination, he sought and received confirmation from the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBC.
The ongoing term limit extension debate, the opposition leaders urged Senate to shoot down the proposal. Elizabeth Mutuko, TV47, Nairobi.
All right, so 19 months later, we still don't have the IEBC, despite so many efforts towards the reconstitution of the electoral body. Bwana Ruku, we've seen even with the NADCO report, which was a unified, almost agreed upon deal between then antagonistic parties, but now they are working together, at least with ODM. So many people would have expected that things would have been fast-tracked now that there's a lot of convergence of thoughts and agreements in so many things that before then were problematic. The suggestion now by the Azimio team is that there could be a delay that has been engineered, an engineered delay in the reconstitution of IEBC, well beyond the legal problems that had bedeviled the body. Do you agree with that? That probably there are some within the political class who are not keen on having IEBC reconstituted, at least not now?
Allow me to say two things, one concerning IEBC and the other one concerning health. Because I had an issue which I thought probably is good to talk about it. About IEBC, I also am of the few, there may be some delaying tactics for the reasons which I don't know. Because the NADCO report was tabled in Parliament, and the NADCO report has the details about several bills, and one of the bills which is going deep into amendment is on Independent and Electoral Boundary Commission Act to align with the views of Kenyans, to align with the views which Kenyans went to NADCO team in Bomas of Kenya and their views on the issues which need to be streamlined as far as IEBC is concerned. Those bills have not been fast-tracked as far as legislative process in Parliament is concerned. But we expect these bills to be taken care of when we go back after the recess. I'm not sure. It is the responsibility of the House Business Committee to schedule the priority bills which need to be fast-tracked. I know the leadership of the House was in Naivasha for a retreat. I think they are finishing today to have a stock of the 2 years, how they have performed. And I hope one of the things which the leadership of the House, the chairmen of different committees, the speaker panel, and all the members of Parliament who are in charge of different committees and responsibilities in the House. So I expect probably they have come up with a way forward. I know my brother here, Honorable Gakuya, is the chairman of trade. I'm sure he must have attended that leadership retreat in Naivasha. So these are some of the things which need to be put forward by those who are in charge in Parliament.
So you do agree that up till now that the leadership of the House has not given priority to this matter?
We should not at any time see to it that some constituencies in the Republic of Kenya are not represented in Parliament. Mm-hmm. We have a constituency in Mandera. We have the former Member of Parliament, Wandai, who is not now a Member of Parliament. We have Magarini, where the court declared him, he didn't win fairly. So all constituents in the Republic of Kenya are supposed to be represented in the National Assembly. we have many MCA positions which are vacant. So there should be, at the moment, by-elections should have been conducted by now. So that is something of priority. We also have delimitation of boundaries, which was supposed to be conducted this year. It has not been done, and I don't think it will be done before we go to the general elections. So these are issues which are constitutional as far as Article 88 of our Constitution is concerned, Article 89 of our Constitution is concerned. So we should be able to ensure, as members of Parliament, we streamline these proposals which are indicated in the NADECO report. Having said that, allow me also to say an issue on health. The Minister in charge of health, please do what is necessary. Communicate to Kenyans what is happening. We want to see you telling Kenyans what you are doing in your office as far as social health authority and chief are concerned. Tell us what is happening as far as private hospitals is concerned. Tell us what is happening as far as level 2, level 3, and level 4, as well as 5 hospitals in the Republic of Kenya, what is happening. We don't want to hear this kind of cries. We have seen you behind the end of public service, Mr. Felix Kosgei communicating on the issues of Minister of Health. It's okay, he has the attitude to do that. But what is this you are doing when you go to that office? Let's see you communicating. There's a crisis in Kenya as far as health sector is concerned at the moment. Come out, talk about it, give us solutions. That's what we want to see. That's what Kenyans are demanding.
Right, a direct message to Dr. Deborah Mulongo Barasa, the Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Health. Back to the issue of IEBC, Bwana Gakuya. The suggestion is that there is a deliberate delay in reconstituting the IEBC. Why would this be? What does it benefit anyone to delay the IEBC? Is it that probably the issue of the delimitation of boundaries is too thorny an issue that no one would want to probably work on right now? Probably because we're already in defiance of the Constitution, that probably in the next 3 years, it's too short a period to conduct delimitation of boundaries. It is a hot potato. Let's leave it till after the next elections. Could that be the reason?
Edimole, let us just check back and mostly why this particular scenario we are in. We are in like a quagmire. And I would like to say that there was a serious effort to constitute the IBC. I remember very well that actually the government already set the panel for that particular process. But at some point, there was a stalemate where the political parties didn't agree. And the issue, an issue arised. But I believe if we are able to create what we call a broad-based government, and we have agreed, and we have shared slot, I don't think that to agree matters to reconstitute the IBC is a big another issue. What we require to be applied here is only a goodwill, and then we see everything moving on. I don't think it's not for anybody's interest to have people of those three constituencies not getting their services just because their members are not in position and they cannot be able to fill those positions because the IBC is the only in charge. In the current problem we are, the current scenario we are in matters to do with also appointing a deputy president. Yes, the speaker alluded that in fact there was a consultation with the IBC, but as much as the constitution is concerned, the powers of administrators are not there. The in charge of issues to do with the decision making is vested in commission. So I don't think that in fact anybody would say that in fact anything is moving. If today we cannot be able to on the ground doing registration, then what is this that the administration can tell us they can be able to do if they cannot be able to move on with the registration? I think we are in a quagmire that in fact no single constituency in the whole Republic of Kenya is doing what we call normal one center registration in every constituency. Nothing is moving, and this is a total quagmire that we don't want to be alive to this situation. And what I would ask is that the head of state goes the back spokes at you. Make sure that in fact everything is moving. If it's a matter of making priority in what we call the business of the house, to give that particular bill the interest it requires, let it be. And I don't think in fact it is anybody's interest to say let's not move. We have a very serious quagmire, Demori, that the issue that my colleague has stated, issue to do with the elimination of boundaries. It's a big issue in terms of representation. Some constituencies are totally overcrowded. Nobody can solve this problem except the IBC.
Could that be the issue? Could that the reluctance to?
I don't believe so. I don't believe so, because if it can be seen as an issue, how can it become an issue? Because this problem is not all over. It is within some specific constituencies. And also there was that element of those other constituencies which were marked as not fulfilled. And I don't think that's an issue, that is an issue at all, because that's a matter that can be solved once and for all. I don't think even delaying is a solution. I think making things work is when you get the proper solution, because make things face things head on, and that way you'll be able to solve them. But once you put them under the carpet, then what is cropping is suspect and delays, which is not giving Kenyan solution, and which is giving some constituencies a lot of undeserved.
Yes.
And we think that in fact the time has come that this is totally a big delay where a priority should be given to this particular one.
Probably Honorable Akuya should tell us whether they discussed some of these issues in Naivasha.
Of course, yes. But I was very shocked to realize that, in fact, the total number of bills that we has approved within 2 good years is only 80 bills. Compared it to the last parliament. But I would say that, in fact, the issue mostly is that in the last parliament, the bills that were mainly coming in is bills to do matters to do with the fulfillment of the Constitution. I think now that we have dealt with major of them, then there are no those serious.
Was there any discussion?
But I would state that, in fact, if actually the parliament, the House has no such big business, then why do you have delay of such important bills?
The constituency that's named Banisa has been without an MP for 20 months now. Kulo Maalim Hassan, the former MP for Banisa, passed on 28th of March 2023. It's exactly 20 months today, and no representation for that constituency.
We shouldn't have been in that state, and we shouldn't live in that state, and we should not continue in that state, because that is denial of constitutional rights of those people who need to be represented, and further examining the role of IEBC. One, there has to be continuous voter registration in preparation for 2027 elections. We cannot prepare for 2027 elections in 2027. There should be continuous voter registration. And I think we should even adopt a voter registration that goes on through and through even to the election day, like it happens in other democracies. And if we are not doing that, then nobody will trust even any registration that will be done. Number 2, the chair and commissioners of IEBC are mandated to conduct the audit of 2022 elections, because you cannot prepare for 2027 before you audit 2022 election. If they are not in place, then there will be no sufficient time to conduct that process. Number 3, they have a mandate to conduct by-elections for various vacant positions. How on earth can you have a constituency for 2 years without representation? Is it that we are so incapable as a country to establish an IEBC? This is backpedaling of democracy and is a threat to the democratic gains that we've made over the years. And if you look at the history of elections in Kenya, the success of a general election and peace thereafter in a general election lies with a trusted, competent IEBC. Pushing the buck to the president is a wrong thing. Let's look at it in terms of the law and the constitution. The mandate lies with the National Assembly. National Assembly, not any other entity.
Do you think there's any particular reason why the National Assembly is not keen on this issue?
Idimuli, the National Assembly is an independent entity under the doctrine of separation of powers. And in fact, the members of parliament are beneficiaries of IEBC directly. So I think now where we are now, we don't have any luxury to give any extension of benefit to the National Assembly.
What do you think could be the problem?
If they cannot kickstart and conclude the process so that as soon as possible, we have a chair and commissioners in the IEBC, delimitation of boundaries is not an event. It is a process, and it's complicated. It's about maybe merging some constituencies, reorganizing boundaries for some, and creating new constituencies for others. It is a constitutional right for the people of Kenya so that they can exercise their sovereign power. So this one, it is not matrix that requires a lot of logical explanation. There is completely something wrong as long as we continue operating as a country, business as usual, without a functional IE.
It started off as a political problem, the disagreement between the political class, and now the political class largely appear to have agreed. So what else could be the problem with reconstituting the IEBC?
You see, as I mentioned, I think it's high time for the bodies, the activists, the Royal Society of Kenya, and such institutions. We see them petitioning the government, going to court, because the people of Banisa have a constitutional right to be represented in the National Assembly. They have stayed for 20 months without representation. That is against the Constitution of the Republic of Kenya. Someone should go to court as quickly as possible, petition Parliament, petition whoever is responsible for ensuring things are put in place. But also, having said that, we should also agree that IEBC is a very contentious institution. Remember, in the past, Mheshimiwa Raila Odinga has said again and again that IEBC has been used as a tool to steal victory from him. So the consensus on how to constitute the IEBC, the proper laws to be put in place as far as IEBC is concerned, it must be, there must be consensus. There must be an agreement as far as that is concerned. The issues of who is going to be the qualification of commissioners, who are these people? Because according to the players in the political scene, as far as the national politics is concerned, they tend to think they have a lot of influence in terms of tarring, transmitting of thoughts. So these are things which need to be agreed, but also there are some other laws which need to be aligned. The Election Act of 2011. I have proposed several amendments as far as the Election Act of 2011 is concerned to ensure we automate our election 100%, completely. And of course, we changed the definition of what a ballot paper is and what a ballot box is, so that we can ensure that it's a machine-read paper, which once you go and mark, you can do it optically marked or even physically, but it is read by a machine there and then and tallied on the spot. By the time we are closing the voting at 6 p.m. in the evening, you are able to know the result immediately. This will give a rebirth to the nation of Kenya. But these are things which have to go through the legislative process, and at the same time, which have to be agreed. I remember when I finished pre-publication with the budget committee, some people started saying, now, you can see, William Ruto has started sending Roko to change the Election Act for automation in preparation for rigging in 2027. That's not true, Jameni. The truth of the matter is we should be more innovative. We should think on the anxiety which Kenyans go through after voting. We are staying for a week without knowing who has won for the presidency. And it brings a lot of anxiety across the country. So also for us, as for those who are fighting for governor, for members of parliament, they stay 2-3 days without knowing who has won because of the process of tallying votes at the tallying centers across the constituencies and at the county level. So these are things we need to stimulate. But as you know, election is very emotive. Consensus is extremely important. So for me, I would call upon the leadership of the House, because that's where the matter is. Let us fast-track the formation, the laws which will lead to formation of IEBC, the constituting of IEBC.
I have 2 minutes each for Bwana Gakuya and Bwana Sosion to wrap up with this matter of the IEBC as we come to the end of the show. Bwana Gakuya.
As much as the matters of new election laws are concerned, that are not the barrier to constitute commission. Assume this commission was not fired, then this commission should be still stand, and laws and those are the laws that require amendment in the House should be taking their course when the commission is in place. So what we are saying, let us first have commission, other things follow, and this is the only cure to this last. We need not to punish people of Banisa, people of Magarin, people of Kisumu, and those other ward representatives that actually, who most of them may have faced deaths or any petitions ouster. And in this case, I would want to finish by saying, this is not a matter to laugh. This is a constitutional matter. If we respect our constitution, we should not allow this gap to be here. This is a very serious gap, and I would say, if we are serious enough, we should fill this gap and make sure that there is commission in place soon as possible.
Finally, Bwana Sosion.
Chapter 15 commissions were negotiated and created through the Constitution of Kenya 2010 and given the independent status so that Kenyans can derive the absolute benefits of their rights through these entities and bodies. And if for a moment we have dead moments of any of the Chapter 15 constitutions, then it amounts to gross violation of the same constitution. So the continued absence of the IEBC is actually a gross violation of the constitution and the rights of the people of Kenya. That's how it should be seen and interpreted. And I don't think we can relegate that responsibility to the civil societies to go and press in courts, because that is not their work. The mandate lies with Parliament to process bills and to process constitution of these particular offices. And I think the courts have pronounced themselves. They have been ordered to do so. So that should be done, so that then the lost time that the commissioners should have been working, they can have some little time before 2027 to prepare for the same. Let's be a country that works ahead of time in terms of governance. And so we should prepare very well for 2027 and to ensure that Kenyans participate in a more democratic, free and fair election more than any other. And then number two, as I conclude, two key things that have transpired in this show is about two key social areas that are key to the country and to all households, that is education and health. When education and health are delivered qualitatively and equitably to all households, there will be no issue. And nobody will question the level of deductions, even in the payrolls, and the level of taxation, as long as you can avail quality education to all children and to all households, and quality healthcare. And I think that is what those who have been given the responsibility by the president to execute, they should do so, and they should not wait for the president to come and engage in face saving and engage in crisis within those sectors. There must be proper leadership and proper delivery of services in those particular sectors. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bwana Wilson Sosion, former MP and former Secretary General of the Kenya National Union of Teachers. James Gakuya, MP Embakasi North, and Geoffrey Ruku, MP Mbeere North, our panelists this morning as we discuss some of the things that are pertinent to the Kenyan society, matters to do with health, education, and of course, electoral rights. The reconstitution of the IEBC remains a thorny issue. Almost 2 years later, we've been without an electoral body for that long. These are just some of the headlines today. And yes, thank you so much for your very well-considered opinions on these matters. After the break, a lot more discussion, National Foster Care Week. That discussion will be guided by Stanley Nyaringita later on. Fitness Thursday. But before that, a conversation on jobs abroad for Kenyans, which is a big thing. And we saw what happened in Nairobi